Hello, River Valley family. Welcome again to our Colossians devotional on this Thursday morning. And we're going to be reading again in Colossians chapter 2. And this time we're just going to be focusing on one verse, and that's Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. And this is what it says. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ. Very simple verse, maybe a very short verse at the very least, but let's spend some moment reading it again and reflecting on what that means. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy, by empty deceit, and on. And so take a moment and really think about what this is saying to us today. So pause, reflect, read again. I have told this story before, but I'll tell it again because I think it illustrates something of what this verse is telling us today. So back when I was doing college ministry, we were spending this time back on my back porch, and we were talking to, when I say we, a group of my friends who were in college, and I were talking to this one friend of theirs who was kind of on the verge of accepting Christ. He was on the verge of confessing, hey, maybe Jesus is who he said he was. And we had kind of answered all of his objections. We had provided information that he needed, and he can kind of see him wrestling, and he was struggling with this, and all of a sudden he stopped and he looked at us and goes, have you guys ever seen that show Ancient Aliens on History Channel? Couldn't it have all been just aliens? And we were flabbergasted. Like, he used the most outlandish excuse to weasel out of making a decision, or at least honestly wrestling with what we presented him. And that's really what I think we see here, is this, that he was using some empty philosophy or some empty deceit to base his life on, that this might be probable, rather than wrestling with who Christ is. And so that's when we look at Colossians chapter 2 verse 8, we see Paul saying, see to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit. And you people can be taken captive by thoughts that are not true, ways of thinking that are not true. And Paul's saying, see to it that you don't get captive by these thoughts, these ways of thinking. He says, don't be taken captive by philosophy. Now, he's not saying all philosophy is wrong. I know a lot of Christian philosophers who would object if you took that view. No, he's saying anything, as he says, that's not built in Christ as its foundation is not true. And so any philosophy, any empty deceit, anything that takes its cue from human tradition only, or from the elemental spirits of this world only, and that does not base its belief in Christ, is wrong or is not true. Things we should not be captivated by, things we need to be watching out for, because we could be taken captive by. And so just think in your life, are there ways of thinking? Are there ways of thought? Are there ways in which we see this world that we follow that are not built on Christ? Probably. There's probably a lot of ways in which we operate in this world that don't find their root, their foundation in Christ. And Paul is saying, see to it that you're not taken captive by those. See to it that you don't live your life by something that's not of Christ. I think that's a great challenge for us. See to it that if we want to follow anything, if we want to base our life on anything, that we base it on Christ.